Okay, today is September 24th, 2024. It's 6:02 p.m. and this is a meeting of the Norwalk Conservation Commission and Inland Wetland Agency. Could we have roll call, please?
Yes, Heather Breslin,
Here.
Paul Bennett,
Present.
Cheryl Brown,
Here.
Steve Clarkey.
Yep.
All right, so you have
Thanks.
4, you have a quorum.
Okay. Is there anyone logged on from the public who would like to comment, make a general comment?
So if you're calling in, you can use, I believe it's *9 to raise your hand on Zoom and let us, you can speak. I think we just have someone calling in and to listen.
Okay, so no one to make a comment. Wonderful. We have no receipt and discussion tonight. Yahoo! So we'll move straight to discussion and or decision. And it is 6:03 and Commissioner Knight has joined us. S24-644, 189 Perry Ave.
All right, so this application was discussed at your previous meeting 2 weeks ago. If you recall, during their initial receipt of this application, the applicant had proposed a engineered underground stormwater retention system. At the last meeting, they sought to revise that proposal and keep the existing dry wells that were previously installed. I think the applicant and maybe the applicant's representatives are here tonight. I don't know. Mr. Devanzo, if you want to, I know that
Yes.
a revised plan and a revised drainage report were submitted and they're on the pending application webpage. Go for it, Wayne.
Okay, thank you, Alexis. For the record, Wayne Devanzo, Fairfield County Engineering for the applicant. Yes, a revised plan was submitted. Let me just share my screen. If I can.
I can share my screen if you're having.
I got it. I think I got it. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay. So this is the revised plan. We are removing or proposing to remove the gravel driveway extension in this area, as well as the gravel that was added down lower by the shed. And those areas will be restored to lawn. The roof, as shown here, will remain connected to the 2 dry wells that were installed. Those dry wells do provide some retention, about 50 cubic feet, which is roughly 350 gallons of storage, which will be adequate for, lesser storms, certainly. But probably more importantly, they do continue to filter out contaminants that would otherwise sheet flow across and into the Silvermine River. And they do provide groundwater recharge. So we are, proposing keeping those. And that is the essence of the plan. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Wayne, could you share your report, please, and just sort of walk us through
Certainly.
where we were and where you're proposing to put us?
Sure. I mean, do you actually want to see it on the screen, or do you want me to just?
I don't care. I mean,
Okay.
I have it up, but I mean, it wouldn't hurt to. I just said,
Okay.
just educate us here.
Sure. So yes. So yeah. What is being proposed will still reduce, or will actually maintain the runoff volumes for the 2 through 100-year storms. Again, as we said, the retention value of the dry wells will remain, and they will provide some retention value. This will improve the water quality of the runoff as opposed to not doing it. That's really kind of the essence of it. Since there's no engineered system anymore, there's not as much to say about the report, but that's basically the summary of it.
Well, how does it compare to before the dry wells were installed? The hydrology of the site?
Yeah, we're not altering the runoff characteristics of the site. We're not changing the drainage patterns in every way, in any way.
I'm
So
sorry, I mean before the roof leaders were tied to, I mean like before.
Yeah,
You know
yeah,
what I
that's
mean?
what I meant. Yeah, I mean
Okay.
we're not. Yeah, it is restoring it to its original pre-existing, let's call it, condition.
Which
with-
was what?
which was, well, we're keeping the dry wells, but it's improving it from the pre-existing condition in the sense that we do have some retention that we didn't previously. And again, that section of the driveway is being restored to lawn and the other gravel section. So we are restoring it to what it was before any work at all was done, basically.
So
And a
the
little
roof
better because
leaders-
there is some retention value there.
So the roof leaders previously discharged and just had sheet flow?
Correct, that's right. Yes,
Okay.
previous to any work being done, they did just sheet flow, downspouts, and they just sheet flowed across. At one point, I suppose, was lawn, but then later became gravel, and just the runoff just sheet flowed towards the river.
And as far as you know, the pipes going to the dry wells are conveying only the roof leaders, or are they also collecting some pump or
As
other drainage?
far as I know, it's just the roof leaders.
Okay.
And we do know that based on the pitch of the driveway as it was and how we're proposing to restore it, the pitch was toward the river or flat or toward the house or both.
Well, it's relatively flat. There's a slight pitch towards the river, I would say, but
Okay.
it's a pretty flat area overall.
So, and how are you able to calculate the capacity of the dry wells having been installed before anybody really had a chance to see them?
Well, from the and speaking with the owner and through the contractor, they are 4-foot diameter dry wells, which is a pretty common precast dry well. And based on that and the soil testing that we did there, determining where the restrictive layer is, I'm saying there's an effective depth of them. They may go deeper, but I'm saying only part of them is effective. And based on that, that's how they're. We know they're about 25 cubic feet each, so 50 total.
Okay. Thanks. Other commissioners have questions? I've been talking a lot, sorry. Okay. I'm looking at emails. Alexis, do we have a draft resolution?
No, but I'll make one for the next meeting. I kind of didn't know what you would think. So
Okay.
I didn't, yep. So if you're good with keeping the dry wells and returning the gravel areas to lawn, I can certainly draft a resolution to do
All right,
that.
commissioners, speak or forever hold your peace. Yeah? Okay. Okay. All right. Well, then we will look forward to a draft resolution for our next meeting, and thank the applicant and Mr. Devanzo for your effort.
Thank you. Just for the when is the next meeting? Is it 2 weeks from now? Just so we know.
Second Tuesday of the month, whatever that is.
October 8th.
Okay. Okay. Very good. Thank you all. Have a good evening.
Thanks, you too.
Night.
Thank you.
Okay, enforcement actions. V 24-1066, 284 New Canaan Avenue. Now, we're going to talk about, Alexis, can we talk about 1066 and 1067 at the same time?
I think that would be easiest.
Let's
Yes.
do that.
All right. Just to step back, so whenever an enforcement order is issued by staff. State statute requires that you, the wetland agency, hold a show cause hearing within 10 days of the issuance of that order. And so during a show cause hearing, I'll explain why I issued the order. And then the respondent or the respondent's representative has the opportunity to provide additional testimony for you. And then at the end of the day, at the end of the meeting, your job is to make a determination whether to uphold the order, to modify and withhold the order, or to uphold the order, to modify and uphold the order, or to withdraw the order. I can speak. Okay, so I did issue 2 orders, both on September 16th, 2024, that resulted from a complaint from a person that lives in the vicinity of work in adjacent to the wetland and water course. And so I'll just go through the 2 orders first, and then I'll show some aerial photographs to explain why I issued them. So the first, number 1066, is a cease and restore order, and it cites clear cutting, removal of vegetation, earth disturbance, and some filling with wood chips within and adjacent to a wetland and adjacent to water courses. We did a site inspection on September 5th, 2024, and found that about a little over 15,000 square feet of previously wooded area had been cleared. Of that, about 2,000 square feet appears to have been directly within a wetland, and approximately 6,800 square feet occurred within the upland review areas of the wetland and water course. And then the remedy sought for that order is to stop all site work and then apply for a corrective action permit application on or before Tuesday, October 29th, that shows the work already done and plans to restore the impacted wetland and the other plans within the upland review area of the wetland and water course. And then order number D-24-1067 was issued on the same day, and that one is a permit violation order. The operator of the contractor's yard, which is AJ Penn & Son, the contractor, uses the yard, and in 2016 they received a wetland permit to take over this facility and use the yard. And part of the reason that they needed a wetland permit was that they were required by their special permit, which was approved by the zoning commission, to do certain site improvements, and in particular stormwater management improvements, and those involved activity within the upland review area. So that permit was issued with limitations and conditions. One of the special conditions was to complete the installation of all the stormwater management improvement infrastructure within 6 months of using the site. And then additionally, with that permit was a site plan that showed the limit of the active yard, and the order cites an expansion of the yard, the active yard, into areas that are within the upland review area of wetlands and water courses. Just switch to the map real quickly. Okay, so just to get your bearings, the white area over here, that's the town of New Canaan, where we just don't have any data. To the right of the screen is Norwalk. This is New Canaan Avenue, or Route 123. Here along the cursor is the Merritt Parkway. And I'm terrible remembering exit numbers, but this is one of the Merritt Parkway exits at Carter Street, which Carter Street goes on into New Canaan. And the subject lot is this parcel here. And the entrance is right off New Canaan Avenue. As you can see, the green is all inland wetlands. And then the light blue lines are watercourses. So this main watercourse is the Silvermine Brook, which is a tributary to the Silvermine River, which in turn is a tributary to the Norwalk River. If we zoom in, the first order, number 1066, deals with this area in outlined in purple. This is the area that was cleared recently for activity that the respondent, I'm sure, will talk about. This is the sliver that occurred within the wetland itself. And then the upland review area for the wetland extends 100 feet from the watercourse. And as of July 1st, the upland review area from the limit of the wetland extends 100 feet from those wetlands as well. For the other order, the permit violation order, for the part that cited the expansion of the yard, that's in this, outlined by this red area here. So this strip here, and then this area here. And I'm going to stop sharing and just go to an aerial photo, which I think might be easier. And this has the opposite colors, apologies, but this red area is the area cited for clearing and disturbance in order 1066. It's approximately 1,760 feet in total, although potentially not all of that is within the upland review area of a wetland watercourse. Again, here is the Silvermine Brook here, this dark line that runs through the site. And then in the other order is the expansion of the facility, and that's outlined in this area. Here, the yellow box is the limit of the northernmost portion of the yard in that 2016 and revised 2018 wetland permit. I'm sorry, so this is a 2018 aerial photograph of the site. 2018 was soon after when the current owner, the Pennas, began to utilize the site, and so that's their yellow trucks that you see there, but they haven't really started to fully use the site. This next photo is from March 2024, so relatively recently, but before this area was cleared. And again, they an expansion of the kind of the parking along this area, storage of materials in this area. This area here is where a water quality basin was proposed, but it's not installed. And then this area here is where underground stormwater retention galleries were proposed, but have yet to be installed. Excuse me. This is a very recent September 12th, 2024 photo. The September ones are taken with leaf cover, so for wetlands, they're not the most helpful, but you can see glimpses of the clearing that happened right after we had visited earlier in the month. For the remedy for order number 1067, it calls to cease active yard operations within the expanded areas. Complete the installation of the stormwater management improvements that were previously required no later than November 5th, 2024, and apply for a corrective action modification of that 2016 permit no later than October 9th, 2024. Any questions for me before I hand it over to the respondent?
I have one quick question.
Oh, actually, Commissioner Knight threw her hand up there. Paul.
Yeah,
Okay.
I have a question just to refresh our memory, because I think I remember this application. It was for the original, what I saw was the parking lot. There was also some discussion in the area which has been clear cut, that they wanted to do some acoustic maneuvering in there, which I think got tabled. I don't think that was approved, and they moved.
Right, so you did do a pre-application review at the request of Land Tech, the PENA's representative in I believe it was April. You did they did ask to be on your agenda at the April 9th meeting, where they presented as just a pre-application review, kind of as a prior to an application, and no decisions, just kind of a gauge your feedback at that meeting. And they had shown a potential berm, an earthen berm that would be placed in the pretty much the general area that was cleared recently.
Yeah, so I think there was general awareness because of the conversation that they should have awareness of activities in that area, that they would need permit review, and that they had a preliminary view or insight as to the commission's feelings about those activities. Okay.
Mr. Vanette.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure if I'm directing this to the commission or if it's something that Mr. Carey's going to have to answer to, but it's they had that revised proposal with the site improvements going back to 2018. Yet this is like 7 years later, and they still haven't fulfilled anything. From planning and zoning's perspective, why has it been so long to realize that this is a violation?
Well, I would say that I have brought it up to the property owner a few times. As I think Commissioner Knight noted, they received, I think it was a 2023 permit to expand parking in the front of their facility closest to New Canaan Avenue. And I'd say that I've given them soft reminders whenever they appear before the commission, but those haven't resulted in action.
Okay.
And then zoning now does know. They were copied on the violation, and so I do anticipate zoning enforcement action to be following shortly.
Okay, but so the city was aware of
Not fully,
they're
so
not fulfilling their obligations.
keeping track, right? So a lot of the bigger approvals require the implementation of improvements, and so in some cases, like this one, the property owner gets all their permits, but they don't complete all the conditions of their permits, and that is sometimes hard to keep track of just because of the volume of various conditions on all the approvals.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Carey. So you're gonna do your best here in the next few minutes to convince us that we're not being treated like doormats.
I understand. Brian Carey, professional wetland scientist with Land Tech with offices in Westport, Connecticut, here to talk on behalf of the AJ Penna Corporation. You have seen my face before regarding this property a little bit over a year ago when we were in front of you to build a modest-sized parking lot. That plan never moved forward based on financial considerations and the size of the parking lot. That being said, currently we just received 2 cease and desist orders from conservation staff last Monday, September 16th, 2024. Fully understand the issues at hand. The applicant or the property owner at this point is not going to say anything to request the withdrawal of the cease and correct order. We understand that there has been some expansions at the property and some cutting that was done by accident, understanding that they thought they had the right to do work outside of the 50-foot upland review area, not knowing the upland review area had changed to 100 feet. There was just a bit of confusion. Just a little background, as you may know, because you did sit through a pre-application hearing for the property for the construction of an acoustical berm back in April of 2024. There is an outstanding issue with a couple of the neighbors based on the site operations and the sound. AJ Penna is trying to be good neighbors and address those issues through the construction of a berm. Unfortunately, they had not submitted an application to complete that work. So that's where we are. In addition, as Alexis has said, the stormwater improvements associated with the 2016 and revised 2018 site plan has not been installed. I'm not sure, but that is in the process of being remedied after receiving the order. They are well aware that that needs to take place in a timely manner. We're in the process of going out there and staking the property so that they can make those improvements and come into compliance with the existing outstanding inland wetland permit that, again, was issued in 2018 when they took control of the site. That being said, I did submit a letter into the file just stating the outstanding issues that we are investigating and will be looking to rectify with a comprehensive application to the Inland Wetlands Agency. I do want to say there is, again, this is a bit of a sensitive matter for them because they are currently in a bit of a quandary with the neighbors, and they are trying to walk a tightrope between being a good neighbor and bringing this site into compliance with the inland wetland regulations and to adjust the cease and desist orders. That being said, I'm just going to run through a couple of bulleted point items, and then I can take any questions. But we know what we are firmly aware of what we need to do and what we need to accomplish in a very short time frame. We are working to comply with all the directives that have been put forth in the cease and correct orders, and we are committed to submitting the required corrective action permit by the designated deadline of October 22nd or 29th, excuse me. In addition, our AJ Penna, we are going to work and we are focused on ensuring that all the necessary measures, including the stormwater management requirements, are in place in accordance with the wetland permit by the November deadline that was stated in the cease and correct order. That being said, we will and are very grateful to ask for a pre-application or just some guidance from your staff, who is always very helpful to us, to sit down with them to go over a plan, a resolution plan, and to get some initial inputs, just so we can make sure that this process moves slowly, or moves quickly for all parties involved. Sorry about that. That was a little Freudian slip. We want to make sure that this again moves quickly. And AJ Penna is working with us on some alternatives that could be put up to the site that I think will benefit the neighbors, and also resolve the issues that are ongoing with the commission. But the fact that we do need to go out there and do some survey is a bit of a time crunch for us, but we will make sure that we are moving quickly on that. And we will provide progress updates to the conservation staff to let them know what we are doing. Again, the big issue is trying to get this to come together with a global solution, with a permit application that addresses all of the issues that have been raised at the site, and also looking to address the neighbors' concerns. Moving forward, again, I'm hoping to reach out next week, early next week, try to set up a just kind of an exploratory meeting with Alexis and her staff, so that we can get kind of an understanding what they want to see be done out there. I already have ideas in conjunction with the property owner, and we just need to put those pen to paper, and then install the stormwater management facilities at the site. So we're committed to do that. The property owner is committed to do that. And we shall be back here shortly to address all the commission's concerns.
Thank you, Mr. Carey.
Just a question for clarification. The issue with the neighbors and the sound. So just to clarify, the disturbance that is on that side of the property, is that what is the activity that is going on over there?
Yeah, so they were under the assumption that they could start installing portions of the berm that you had previously seen under the pre-application meeting, as long as that area was outside of the 50-foot wetland setback. Unbeknownst to them, the commission did change the setback to 100 feet. They are trying to, again, placate the neighbors. It's just been a long time coming. And there's been a lot of discussion back and forth with the neighbors. So they were trying to do something positive. Unfortunately, it ran into the wetland area. So we do have to come up with a restoration plan. And the goal is to, when I say global type of restoration plan, something that will work for not only restoring the cease and basically adhering to the cease and desist order, but also something that can be done at the same time to resolve the issues they're having with the neighbors.
Okay, but if I'm not mistaken, that is a water course back there that it falls in, which the boundary did not change for that, correct?
There is a water course and there's also wetlands. So the wetland setback's 100 and
Right.
the water course setback's 100 and the wetland setback
Right.
50. So yes, we are coming into with the restoration plan and to basically ask for a permit application to build some type of sound barrier device that will hopefully, be adjacent to the wetlands and no impactful to the wetlands, and also restore the area that's been disturbed out there.
And what recourse do the neighbors have as far as, I mean, of course, we want everyone, as a human, I understand that people don't want to live next to something that is loud and running 24 hours a day. But as far as legally, I'm not familiar with if there's any recourse for that sort of.
I'm not a lawyer. I think it's a little bit more problematic because they are residents of New Canaan and the activity is in Norwalk. So it would be a civil lawsuit. But then again, that being said, I'm not a lawyer, and I don't.
Yeah, okay.
So I don't know what happens when they call the zoning department or the health department in Norwalk, considering that they are not part of that township.
Understood. Thank you.
Commissioner Knight?
Yeah, I guess, I just feel a little lack of good faith on the part of the applicant here, because there was a pre-application, there was discussion, there was an awareness of the sensitivities of the area, as well as a generally unfavorable response by the questions that were asked about the berm. So they withdrew it with the understanding that most likely, because of the adverse impact on the watercourse and wetland, it would not be approved or seen as a necessary activity within the upland review area or the watercourse in terms of the net impact on the environment. And so to see then that they went ahead with it and went into the area, or even to check with Alexis, just because the notifications have been published about changes in the act. I mean, one of the things about acts is that it's a living process law, and things change, so you need to check in with the agencies. So it's disappointing to see this come back so soon with this kind of violation, considering the conversation is very recent.
Concur there. Anybody else? Okay, so in the hopes of getting this resolved sooner rather than later, I think we're being, based on the draft the cease and restore orders that we're here to decide whether to uphold, decline, or modify. I think we're being a little too generous with the timeline for having a corrective action permit application on before Tuesday, October 29th, which is a month. I'm more inclined to see something in the next week or two.
I'll be honest. I mean, just from professionally, I can't turn that around in that time frame, just with my own personal schedule. Unfortunately, I'm dealing with a lot of these violations throughout the state. I don't know why. I know why no one takes these on, but unfortunately, I've got a bunch of different ones going on, not to mention just my current workload. I mean, I will do my best to get it to you as soon as possible. It's just 2 weeks is really, I really have to go out there and meet with Alexis first and see if there is additional survey that needs to be done to really quantify the impacts of those areas. If it was just me putting together a restoration plan and sitting in my office and doing that, I wouldn't, I could tell you I could get that done. I'm relying on other aspects of my office, survey and possibly engineering, to put together a restoration plan. We're hoping to, well, I'm not hoping, we're going to come in with an application that not only corrects all of the violations, but also looks to permit and legalize some type of sound barrier on the property. If we need to do that through a separate process, I understand that. That's not a problem. A corrective action application can be done for just and we have done that before. I've done that before in front of the commission. But if we want to streamline it, I was thinking that we could put this all into one global, again, I don't mean to keep saying that, global application to kind of address all of the stuff, all of the issues in one permit application. Because restoring the area adjacent to the neighboring properties on Carter Drive will obviously require a decent amount of planting in the buffer area. And then it will also, you know, we're looking at alternatives for building some type of sound barrier, whether it be some type of modified wall, a berm, or you know, something that will, you know, work with the acoustical engineer's recommendations. So there is a little bit of of lead up work I have to do. Not to say that we aren't going to show good faith by going out there immediately and making sure that the stormwater management systems are in place. And like I said, we'll provide weekly updates to Alexis on our progress. This isn't something that's going to be dragged out in any manner whatsoever.
Alexis?
Yeah, so I was just gonna say, I don't often agree with a respondent, but I would agree with the date. So once you, the agency, uphold an order, that order is what I have to work with, and there is no wiggle room for me to adjust dates. It's your order. And what I try to avoid when issuing an order is to tee up a respondent for success and give them enough time to submit a complete application. So based on what Mr. Carey has said, I would agree with him that we do need to meet so that there is an understanding about what is needed to meet the directives of these two orders. I will say that I think you're looking at two separate permit applications, one for the berm and one to modify your previous permit.
Well, that's a good point. If Catherine and Heather, actually, Catherine took her hand down. If Heather doesn't mind for a second. So we should probably start talking about each of the two violations separately. There is the berm, lots of strings attached. That's 1066. 1067 is just the bleeding of the yard and, to the north and east corner of what was previously established. Is there any way to get resolution of that sooner or letting them have until November 5th to do the stormwater management improvements seems like a long time too. And if they have time to do this stuff, they gotta have time to fix it,
Right. So I know that another facility that recently had a violation for not installing their stormwater that wasn't before you, they had difficulty getting the some of the structural components delivered to their facility. So that's in part why I gave them until the 5th. But so just understand that they may have some. So obviously that I'm very confident that they can complete the excavation portions of the stormwater management plan, but some of the infrastructure components, I know that they just take a while to order and then receive, to physically receive.
Okay.
I can make this, so I will be in touch with the property owner, obviously, this by the end of this week. I can provide a schedule. One of the questions that we need to ask is, obviously, I need to do construction staking for them to lay out the locations of the stormwater infrastructure that is on the approved site plan. I didn't know if staff wanted to look at those stakes in the field prior to then commencing the installation of the stormwater. The old adage, measure twice, cut once. We want to make sure that that's done right, installed right. So, they're at the point where they're ready to start the work. I need to get out there ASAP and have the areas staked out per the plan. So that's basically the holdup on that. I don't know what the delivery or lead time on the Holtec system is at this point. I can get that answer from them. I know they've already been talking to source all of the construction materials, so I can provide a schedule to staff by late this week or by Monday to give them an idea of schedule.
Okay, thanks. Ms. Breslin?
Well, thank you. What is, sorry, I'm lowering my hand, can't do two things at once here. The repercussions for any sort of for violation enforcement order. What does a roadmap look like? Not that I don't trust guys.
So,
I guess
Totally.
my question really comes down to, it feels like it doesn't matter if we approve or don't approve or whatever, anything, because they do what they want.
so, um, so, so part of the reason that the directives are not just fix it, because my standard of a fix may not meet the Inland Wetland Agency standard of a fix. All the fixes are returned to the commission to get approval. And so we have two tiers, two classes of applications. We have your
Mhm.
regular applications, and then we have a lot of corrective action applications.
Mhm.
And when you look at the order, there are three separate directives. So the first is to apply for a corrective action permit, and it has some caveats of what doesn't make the cut. So it doesn't work if it's incomplete, if it's denied, or if it's withdrawn. So that's telling the future applicant that they have to apply, and they have to propose something that you, the agency, are going to approve. And what that does is it ties it, at the end of the day, your job is to administer the Inland Wetland Act. And the objective is to protect inland wetlands and watercourses, and make sure that any lost function is returned. So that's the first one. Then the second one says that, assuming they get a corrective action permit, that they have to do all the work detailed in that corrective action permit. So they have to, again, meet all those conditions. And once it's a corrective action permit, we watch it much more carefully, like let you know that, because it's already corrective, right?
Mhm.
So then as far, we've had this discussion about punitive, the regulations are not intended to be inherently punitive. So there is no fine. There is a higher fee for corrective action permits, and there is a higher fee for corrective action modification of permits. But at the end of the day, it comes down to the agency reviewing applications and saying, no, not good enough, or okay, you've convinced us.
Alexis?
Yes.
Okay, I strongly agree with what, Ms. Breslin is saying. Reading their past history here, what we have in place. Is there a bond attached to any of these requirements?
So so again, future modification and future permit, I would recommend that if you get when we get a future application and there is a motion from one of you guys to approve with conditions, I would strongly encourage that one of the conditions be a bond. And a bond is a typical condition of almost every inland wetland permit, certainly every conservation permit. The 2016 permit did not require a bond.
Okay, I'm gonna actually, Cheryl you had your hand up after Heather.
Yeah, I have some questions about the water quality basin. It looks like from the satellite imagery that a road has been constructed in that area, and I can't quite tell if it's a dirt road or if it's paved, but I would assume, or I would ask, were test pits done to make sure that there's infiltration back in 2016, and what is the effect of that compaction now? Is this a water quality basin that the water is supposed to percolate into? So those would be some questions. I wasn't sure more testing needs to be done to make sure that it's actually effective once it's installed.
Yeah, I agree. I think that I had mentioned the need for Mr. Carey and I to meet prior to an application is submitted, in part because in addition to what's in the order, I do have a list of questions and concerns that I think should be addressed in applications.
Okay.
But that was
Understood.
Okay, Ms. Knight?
Yes, I have a question just about the application S-23-629. Because it was mentioned that the applicant has decided that they're not going to build the additional parking places. Is that correct? So they won't actually be.
That's correct. At this time, I do not believe they're moving forward with that project.
Okay, so Alexis, on these open memorandums or the approved site plans,
Mhm.
is there a time frame in which those would expire, or are they just open until the applicant does work on the plan?
So that one I'm working on
That was from
pulling
January.
it up. Yep. Um,
The reason why I raise that is just because of the activities and the nature of the violations here. I'm concerned about that section of wetland and the applicant, having a further violation if they start to do work or decide that they can modify the permit and don't follow the.
So that permit is good for 10 years. The state statutes define the life of a permit. If a permit does not require an approval under chapter 124, 124B, 126, 126A of the statutes, which is pretty much planning and zoning, then it's tied to that planning and zoning approval. I don't know why the legislature did this, but it's a real pain. Or otherwise 10 years. If an activity does not require any zoning approval, for example, you have some that are just landscaping. This one's a little different because anything that they do they have a special permit that they're operating under. And that has a ton of conditions. But other violations where it's just landscaping, for example, those can have a shorter life, but it's still up to 5 years. So their 2023 approval for the front would be 10 years from the date of issuance, I would argue, because I don't believe that they received planning and zoning approval is required, but they haven't received that yet. So you'd go to that approval or 10 years, whatever is earlier.
Okay.
Other commissioner questions or comments? Okay, so let's take these one at a time. We'll need a motion to uphold, amend, or reject the cease and desist order. What is it?
Mhm.
Cease and desist
Okay.
order for V 724-1066. Anybody want to comment on that? So I tried to push back on the dates, but Alexis says no. So if there's nothing else we can do to get this going, then I will move to approve the.
I agree with Steve on the dates, but I'll defer to Alexis on them.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll defer to Alexis on pretty much anything. So then,
I'll make a motion to uphold the order.
as written. What's that?
Yep. Oh, you were making the motion. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Sorry,
I thought you were asking for a motion.
that was my motion to uphold it as written. Do I have a second?
I'll
I can do
second
that.
that motion.
Okay, we're getting one to Paul since this is his first official meeting.
I'm just gonna be quiet. I was trying to be helpful, but
That's cool. All right, now's the time for discussion. Any time or any discussion on that? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, it's unanimous. Moving on to V24-1067. Same thing. I move to hold as written. Can I have a second?
I'll
That was-
second that also.
Paul got the second. All, any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
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 Good luck, Mr. Carey.
Thank you. You'll be seeing me shortly. Alexis, I'll send you an email about meeting.
Please do.
Yep.
It had
thank you.
been
I
too
appreciate all
long.
your help. Excuse me, I'm
Yeah, we
sorry.
missed you, Brian.
I said it had been too long.
I know. I like doing good things though, so we'll get this done.
All right.
Thank
Thank
you. Bye.
Good night. All right, moving on to V24-1068, 2 Lloyd Road.
This should be, it should not have, J. Fay Associates, that was the applicant for, the previous application. It should be the property owner, Julio Milian Perez. And I'm sorry if I've ruined your name, Julio. Okay, so the same deal. The staff has issued an order. State statute requires that we hold a show cause hearing within 10 days of any issuance of an order. This order was issued because back in April 2024, a notice of violation number V24-1060 was issued for piping of watercourse and related activities adjacent. The applicant duly did make a corrective action application before you, the agency. That application was recently withdrawn earlier this month and on the 10th of September, if I remember right. They did not meet the directive of that first notice, which is to gain a corrective action permit. And so a cease and restore order was issued with the same directives, new timelines to submit an corrective action application on or before October 22nd, and to then implement completely any subsequent approval of that corrective action application. I think that you're all familiar with the property. I can do a quick aerial if I'll do a quick aerial. This property is on the corner of Lloyd
123 Main Avenue.
This is the property here. I'll zoom out a little bit. So this is New Canaan Avenue again. Lloyd Road is off to the south of New Canaan Avenue, and the subject property number 2 Lloyd is here. And this is what the property roughly looked like when the first violation in the spring of 2024 was issued. Prior to that, this isn't the best photo, but there it was a intermittent water course in this location here. A small 8-foot pipe portion was piped here, and then there was an open water course here. So yeah, I think that's kind of my very quick summary of why the cease and desist order was issued.
Mr. O'Donnell, would you like to introduce yourself and state your piece?
Thank you. Thank you, Alexis, and thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the agency. For the record, Casey O'Donnell appealing, hearing on behalf of the applicant Julio Milian Perez. Now, first and foremost, I want to take responsibility for the substantial delay. That was entirely due to me, and we had a very painful matter that kept ultimately hemorrhaging before we were able to put it together. And then my wife and I snuck away for our first trip since having kids. So congratulations to us. We broke the curse after 10 years and we've taken a vacation without the kids. And now this has my full attention. So I want to take responsibility for that. And then to also compliment this agency on an exceptional staff. Alexis has stayed in close communication, responding almost immediately to my inquiries and been very patient. By way of brief background, I am an electrical engineer and a second career attorney. I was inspired to become an attorney when I had a zoning enforcement role in Fairfield County. And as I kind of worked through that, and I had the pleasure of working with a lot of different land use professionals, I wanted the ability to choose my clients, which I recognize this agency nor Alexis has the luxury of doing. So I want to say thank you. Thank you for being good environmental stewards. And again, you just have a great staff there, and it's my pleasure to work with them. I have looked over the application, and I had the pleasure of walking the site in the immediately adjacent areas today. And I think that we can do a little bit better than what's proposed today. I think we can actually probably improve the quality of the downstream wetlands despite how they're being fed. And I'd like a little bit of time to explore that. In part, I want to talk to the city and see if there's some synergy in working with DPW to make, again, something where we can sort of treat the water that's entering into that stormwater sewer system that discharges to another wetland downstream, and then it's piped, right? And you guys know this better than I am, just learning this, and ultimately coming down into the river system. So as I walked the site, and Alexis again kindly told me what your concerns were with the first round of the application, I started my process, which is collating all the available information and to trying to be creative about the solution to see if maybe rather than an open drainage ditch or simply the way it's piped today, we can do things to, again, really treat that stormwater, which I'll wait for the experts to weigh in on this. But as a layperson who's been around real property and had the privilege of growing up in a property with significant wetlands and watercourses as a child, it should be dry at this time of year, and it's bone dry. So I'm not looking at really a ground-fed spring. And I did see some areas across the street from New Canaan Avenue, and there looks like there could be a potential vernal pool sort of in that area. So I was really excited to see that. And I didn't have a chance to really look too much at what's downstream. But what else I recognized from seeing the videos that Julio sent me in substantial rain events and visiting the site myself, that there's a substantial amount of road water that's coming into that system. So with your grace, I'd like to explore the opportunity of sort of looking at some basic treatment measures for that stormwater, maybe deep sump, catch basins, and some trash racks, so we can do our best to treat that. And then again, with the goal here of improving the downstream wetlands and the water quality going into those downstream wetlands.
You are muted, Steve.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. O'Donnell. So basically, I think what I just heard is that we should go ahead and uphold the cease and restore order to give the applicant and his team the opportunity to show us an excellent solution to the issue.
Thank you.
Okay. So, does anybody have any thoughts on details of the order? Mr. O'Donnell, is October 22nd a reasonable date by which to submit an application?
I don't know that I can make that deadline, but I don't object to it, because I think a little pressure here is gonna be good for me. I spoke with, Christine Cardassia at, Norwalk DPW today. She again, graciously, took me as a walk-in and then returned my call today. And I asked her when I could follow up with her, and she suggested about 2 weeks. So
Hmm.
we can perhaps leave the existing date, and I have to come back to you, then or before to ask for more time. I don't object to that. We want to move this thing along. I know you've already been gracious to us, and we already have our survey work done. So it's going to come down to seeing what solutions we can create with DPW here. And I've already been talking with Jay Fain and Brian Muller, our engineer, on ways where so we're already discussing how we can improve that stormwater flow, no matter what the treatment is across Mr. Milan Perez's property.
And I'll talk to Public Works and try to get some guidance from them by the end of next week. So it's not 2 weeks, but 1.
And that'd be great.
Okay, Ms. Knight?
Yeah, I just want to flag, because I know there was an issue in the discussion previously just around kind of the changes or the discrepancy between the 2 wetland delineation reports. And that was something that was a bit concerning, how there were wetlands and then all of a sudden it says no wetlands. So that's
Can I
something.
address that, Commissioner Knight?
Sure.
Okay. I will, I'm loquacious, so please stop me anytime you want. But if I were to have a ground spring on my property and I sort of ignored it, or a tree fell across it, in over 20 years time or 25 years time, the water pooled there. And I think what we would see over that time period is the soil types would change to reflect that presence of water, the vegetation, and the animals that frequent that, and insects. So the biodiversity would change. And so as I've talked and studied environmental law and worked with other environmental experts, I've asked them, do you think a soil change? So could I create wetlands over a course of 20 years? And they've said, yeah, I think that's possible. And then I asked the inverse. And so I query you, and not demanding an answer, but asking you to think is, over a period of 20 years, is it possible that we could see soil types would change based on the environmental conditions surrounding it? Second to that, this property was owned by Mr. Thial's wife. And at times he was also an owner. And my client bought it from the person who prepared that delineation. There's not a tremendous amount of information on that delineation. I reviewed it, and I've also reviewed the more recent delineations. And so when I walk the site and when I look at the photographs that were included in that initial report, I'd ask you, do you think that Mr. Thial, who lived in that was his home, and you looked at the photographs that he sold that house with, which showed lawn areas, and they appeared dry and relatively flat. So logically, would we look there for wetland type soils, other than the fact that they're adjacent to this water course? And so I recognize that's an issue, and Alexis has asked me to address that, and I will address it for you to the best of my ability. I think we could take some deep core samples of the soil and any disturbances there to look for those soils. But as I investigated the site, it wasn't obvious to me as I looked at the photos and I looked at the other reports. I've also had the pleasure with working with Jim McMahon, McManus, excuse me, very closely. And I found he's got a pretty good environmental ethic. And so I tend to trust his judgment. So we have 2 soil scientists, both well-regarded. Jim, I hold in exceptionally high regard, and I think his reputation precedes him. And they had the same findings, and that's today. And then we have some portion of a report that's very old that indicates maybe something else. We know that the gas line went in at that property, and so we could find substantial disturbances occurred at that time. The land records maps don't indicate that there was any watercourse in that area. However, they do indicate watercourses in the area that are currently piped as part of the stormwater infrastructure of the city. So I would just beg a little leave so I can address those concerns to this agency.
Okay, just to respond, quickly. One, I think, you know, I'm flagging it to say like, these are questions that are gonna come up to be addressed in the application. I think your hypothetical works, you know, probably outside if there's no human impact. But when there's human impact, that's where, and there's activity within the water course which has changed or impacted the wetland. You know, you could say, yes, there's lawn or there's fill that could have happened over 20 years and the organic, you know, which is why we have the buffer areas and we try to protect the wetlands, because lawn on a wetland is over time
It's the worst.
degraded. It's the worst. The other thing is that, you know, if it's dry and there's no issue or it's not like wet or wetland, you know, you're here today because there's an application to pipe it. So obviously there's concern about the water and the water course and the proximity to the dwelling. That's precipitated why there was the activity. So, you know, if you're saying it's dry and there's no issue, then there's no need to build a pipe, you know, pipe it. If you're saying it's dry and there's no water course or wetland here. So, you know, it's creating a little bit of confusion in terms of one way or the other. Either it's a problem and there's water that's an issue as to why you're wanting to put a pipe in, or there's nothing to see here, you know, so.
Right.
I think
Well,
just to
I appreciate
clarify
that.
that, yeah.
Thank you. Sorry, Steve, you're muted again.
Oh, what my problem is tonight. I'm usually pretty good at that.
No.
Sorry. Thank you. And yes, Heather, I did have dinner. Thank you very much. Okay.
And
I'm
ask
just
you in
gonna-
public.
I'm going to move to uphold the cease and restore order for V24-1068 as written. Can I have a second?
I'll second it.
Hey, Cheryl. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Aye. You. We. Okay. Unanimous. Nice to meet you, Mr. O'Donnell, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Likewise, thank you very much, and thank you, Mrs. Knight, for pointing that out to me so we can make sure we correctly address it, and you don't have to ask again.
Okay. Good night. Thanks. Moving on to bond release / reduction requests. We have one for S19-532, 34A Bain Street.
My apologies, this was on the previous agenda and I asked you to table it, and I'm gonna ask again. We
Why don't we go
have,
ahead and-
we haven't, we don't have a recent enough re-inspection of the property, so we keep kicking this one down.
Let's just keep on kicking then. That's fine with me.
Another table. Thank you.
Approval of minutes. Now, Heather, I'm just gonna warn you. You've got some new competition. Because Paul is a reader of minutes. don't wanna-
I wasn't
Voice-
ever competing for this role. I don't, so I mean, if Paul wants to take it, that is,
Well, I'm going to abstain at this moment because even though I was watching and listening to the other meeting, I wasn't a known present.
that's right. We found
Yeah.
you at the end.
I will save that fight until next meeting, Heather.
Well, then I will make a motion to approve the minutes from,
I'll second.
thank you.
Okay, everybody's gotten some action tonight. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Well, hold on a second.
Abstain.
Okay,
I
so
wasn't there, so
Paul, are you a yay or an abstention?
I said a yay. I was able to see it and I was hearing it. You
I
just didn't know I was watching.
Okay, good enough. So we have 4 yeas and an abstention. Great. Comments sorry, conservation initiatives. Are we feeling ambitious?
No, there are a lot of violations. So I had wanted to get it finished, but I haven't yet. I'm making you all, I'll be sending out, sharing a spreadsheet of all active violations, because I think it's getting hard to keep track. And this will actually help. You had mentioned kind of giving respondents less time. And with the spreadsheet, you can look at the amount of time that other violations have. So the spreadsheet has orders which come before you, but it also has the notices of violation that are kind of the order light that don't come before you as the enforcement process, but you see them as corrective action applications. And then we've had a rash of corrective action applications that withdrew, which has never happened. We had 3 withdrawals, and I don't think I've ever had a withdrawal before this year. So keeping track of kind of the timelines, time passes quickly when you don't rectify a violation. So I'll send that to you in advance of the next meeting.
Okay.
I kind of skipped to comments to staff. So that is it for both items.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else have conservation initiatives they'd like to discuss or propose? Hearing none, we'll move on to comments of commissioners. Anybody? Bueller? Nothing for me? Okay, that's fine. Then that's it. Can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
So moved. Can we have a second?
I'll
Second.
second it.
Oh. You got it.
I think Paul's taking all my jobs. I'm gonna retire.
No,
No.
We need as
No.
many people as we
I
can
know,
get.
warm body. Got it. I know. I'm
You're more than a warm body. Right. All in favor?
Oh, yeah, and Steve, you're coming back, right? Yes. Because you're,
Four.
that's
Oh,
your
yeah.
term. Yes.
Oh, for sure. Yes.
All right.
Most definitely. Okay.
Do
Night,
you need
everyone.
a campaign
Everything is
brochure
so
for
optional in this
chairman?
committee.
Well, I mean, we discussed recently. Oh, wait. So actually, are we adjourned? We're adjourned.
Wait, hold on. I'm going to adjourn you.
Do you want to be adjourned?
We adjourned?
Well,
Meeting
yeah, I
adjourned?
suppose we'd better. I mean, I was just
Okay.
gonna throw out there
Okay.
because she wasn't around last.
Hold on, I'll adjourn. Hold on.